This is the early morning of the 5th. There's a lot to talk about. One of my friends who's a mechanic for Delta sent me this actual clip that I guess the media got a hold of. But I've got the actual clip, the exact same clip. UPS MD-11 air crash, engine explosion, fire, initial analysis. Well, from what I've read, 3 people in the aircraft are dead, and I think 4 or 5 on the ground are dead. Now, I've done a little bit of research. The aircraft was 34 years old, and most freighters retired around 31 years. Some, according to what I read, which I'll also attach in a separate link, some get flown for 50 years under strict maintenance. Now, the question has to be asked is, what can cause an engine to explode? Well, a hairline crack in the turbine blade that finally decides to let go. That's one thing. But there's a host of others. Let's listen to this 9-minute clip. This is put up by a retired airline captain.
Hello my friends, my name is Dennis and I used to be an airline pilot. Well, here we have the aviation accident to review. It is very fresh, happening in Kentucky, United States of America. This is McDonnell Douglas MD-11 of UPS that caught fire, took off from the runway and crashed into the neighboring area.
This is in Louisville, Kentucky at the airport.
Watch this video.
This was taken by a couple of workers at the airport in their vehicle.
Yeah, that's the huge fireball out there, and sadly pilots lost their lives. The search and rescue operation is ongoing. I'm recording this video 1 hour after this event happened, so we still have not so much information about the case, but at least have something, and I may tell you what potentially could lead to this case. It reminds me a little of Concorde tragedy, but nevertheless, let's review step by step what happened. Yeah, we have just a part of this video filmed by the ground crew of this cart, and here you can see that the smoke, it is kind of long. Yeah, this trace, it means that aircraft caught fire on the ground. Nevertheless, it continued to take off, lift off, and crashed almost right away. From this perspective, the aircraft is really airborne, and you may see a huge fire on the left-hand side of the wing, where the engine is located. Also, as it is reported, the aircraft hit the building. After it lost control and crashed. I guess here's the moment of initial impact, and of course, at this altitude with not enough thrust, pilots had no chance to survive. And because the aircraft was fully loaded with fuel for the long flight to Honolulu, there were at least 75 tons of fuel together with a reserve for alternate just in case. You may see the destruction it caused to the ground. Luckily, it's not the high populated area. For example, we may see on this image that probably it's some sort of the metal recycling facility, lots of their used cars, basically a scrap metal factory, but there is also some sort of the stand for the tracks. Could be also waiting for recycling, so at least not several-story buildings, not private households are established, but still there could be the losses on the ground. It's been reported roughly 10 minutes ago by Kentucky governor that at least 3 persons confirmed to be unalived, probably the crew of this airplane, and also 11 people wounded, but they say that probably those numbers could rise. So yeah, a very, very big tragedy just happened. And this is the video from the eyewitness. You may see it's like a Hollywood movie, but it is happening in reality. Looks like a napalm, but it's Jet A1 aviation kerosene, aviation fuel. And here we have one more video from the truck stand filmed on a truck dash camera that shows the airplane lost moments. So you can see it here flying and crashing. This is really horrific. On this image, it is evident that the aircraft hit the ground with the tail and with the wing. The right hand engine was intact, and I don't see any sort of the fire or smoke coming from it, so probably fully operational. The rest two of the engines, one in the tail and the left hand, well, there was the fire on left hand, but the tail, I'm not sure about it for now. The aircraft itself looks like that. It is more than 30 years old, was converted to the freighter back in 2006, and it is okay to use those kind of the airplanes for cargo transportation. There is nothing outstanding with that, and before even KLM had those airplanes flying for cargo. I'm not sure about now, I need to cross-check. One more CCTV video showing the airplane pitching up quite high and crashing right away. Well, if it is correct, one of the engines was found lying near to the runway. In our age, it's really hard to trust those kind of the images because AI may do kind of the good job with that, but there are so many tiny little details, and I would say they're legit. What I see that the fan is absent, yeah, at least that fan with the fan blades. So could it be the internal explosion of the engine, some sort of the engine damage, uncontained damage that led to the turbine or compressor particles to leave the engine core and penetrate the aircraft skin, also fuel tanks that led to this fireball? Well, for now it's early to judge, but I'm just telling you the first variants I'm thinking about. It could be also foreign debris which went to the engine. It could be absolutely everything at the stage. I'm just trying to analyze what has just happened. And here's the last route of this airplane. It took runway 17 right. It took the full runway length from what I may see. And this is the final position. So we're in the scrapyard. The highest ground speed recorded on ADS-B data is 184 knots. The time between takeoff roll and the final stop is 1 minute and 6 seconds, 106, which means that the events happen really fast, dramatically, at least for the crew and maybe for some people on the ground. And this is the building. Probably it was hit initially. After lift off of the airplane, there was not enough lift, not enough thrust with this engine failure or fire. So maybe airplane sustained additional damages which led to the loss of the flight control. MD-11 may fly with two of the engines and climb. It is certified for that. So the single engine loss is not a problem for that one. Yeah, people still say that they cannot verify the authenticity of this image, but well, it looks real from what I may say. And we have one more dashcam video, also from the truck. You can see a very huge pitch. The fire is coming from the left part of the airplane, and I want to try to spot whether it has the engine. It looks like there is no engine, guys. Looks like definitely it lost the engine. Maybe it exploded. I don't see the engine here. Yeah, no engine looks like. Probably engine blown up on takeoff. I would take that as a main cause for now. The Flight Radar 24 reports that this particular aircraft, MD-11, registration November 259 Uniform Papa, was on the ground from September the 3rd till October 18th. This suggests that the aircraft underwent maintenance during that period. Well, now it's the start of November, so the maintenance was fresh. Also, this plane made several flights after the maintenance, and everything was, I guess, working fine. Yeah, it seems like there were some issues definitely with the engine, so this is the legit image. It shows the engine cowling lying also near the runway. So if there is the engine itself lying and the engine cowling separately, it was definitely the uncontained engine explosion, you may call it, or engine damage and separation in this case. Here you may see the runway poppy lights, one of those being destroyed by debris. Those lights are positioned at the edge of the runway, but still not at the very end. It could be like 1,000 feet, something like that, and this is the landing spot. You may see the marks of the tires. So there's the high chance that the engine just blown up at the worst possible timing after V1, so this decision making speed at the almost very end of the runway, so crew didn't have any kind of the chance to stop the aircraft. The only way is to lift off the airplane, make a turnaround and land safely, but in this case debris went and penetrated maybe even flight controls, fuel tanks for sure. So I would look for that kind of the scenario, judging on those debris lying near the runway and the engine probably itself. And here's the track from the helicopter that took this image. They're looking for possible survivals in the area. Search and rescue is still ongoing. Yeah, here we have another image of that particular engine, UPS airplane MD-11 also in the background, another one, different lighting, so the image was zoomed in, it's kind of grainy, but still you see those kind of the small details, so it is not an AI, it is a legitimate one, so for sure it was engine separation, severe damage that led to fire, loss of the thrust and loss of the airplane control. Now I'm almost convinced about it, we'll see what investigation may tell us in the coming days. Well guys, what can I say? My condolences for those relatives who lost their loved ones. It is a terrible aviation accident, and there was no highly populated area behind that runway, but still there are casualties, and it is very, very bad. Again, if I'm...
So what do you think other MD-11 pilots are thinking, when they're flying these antiques? Remember what I said? The most dangerous time to fly an airplane is when it comes out of service. This aircraft was in service for over a month, and it was just recently released. Well, obviously somebody screwed up, and that's what they're going to look into, whoever worked on that engine. I'll attach the link. Anybody that flies now with the controllers not being paid, you're really shooting the dice, and they're all against you. That's just sort of what I think. Pass it along, and thanks for listening.